Admiral Kethver looked at the report on his desk with complete boredom. Another primitive world had been found in the far reaches of space. The planet was called Earth by its people. The report said they were still using basic radio signals, and had not even left their own planet yet. They barely knew how to make fire compared to the great Zephyrian Empire. The Empire ruled over 40,000 star systems. They had been the masters of space for over 10,000 years. Every species they met either joined them willingly or was forced to join. It was always the same story. Show up with big ships. Show them how powerful you are. Watch them surrender. Set up a new government that follows Empire rules. Move on to the next planet. Kethver had done this dance hundreds of times. His gray skin and 4 arms marked him as pure Zephyrian blood. His family had served the Empire for 20 generations. He had never lost a battle or failed to bring a world under Empire control. This Earth would be no different. The humans on Earth had noticed the Empire ships when they arrived at the edge of their solar system. Their primitive sensors could barely see the massive fleet hanging in space near their outer planets. 300 ships of different sizes floated in perfect formation. Each ship was the size of a small city. The smallest fighter craft was bigger than anything the humans had ever built. Within hours of arrival, the humans started sending radio signals toward the fleet. They used every frequency they could think of, basic math patterns, simple pictures, even music. They were trying to talk. How cute! Commander Zextel brought the first translated message to Admiral Kethver. The translation computer had learned their language quickly. Human languages were simple compared to the complex speech patterns of advanced species. What do they say? Kethver asked without looking up from his tactical display. They want to meet. They say they come in peace. They offer friendship and trade. They want to learn about us and share knowledge. The usual primitive nonsense, sir, Kethver laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. They want to trade? What could these barely evolved creatures possibly have that the Empire needs? Dirt, tree branches, the waste from their animals? The bridge crew joined in the laughter. They had heard this kind of thing before. New species always thought they had something special to offer. They never did. Send them the standard response, Kethver ordered. Tell them a representative may come aboard our flagship. We will explain their situation to them. Make sure they understand this is not a negotiation. 3 days later, a small human ship approached the Zephyrian flagship. The ship was so tiny that it looked like an insect next to the massive alien vessel. The humans had built their fastest and most advanced spacecraft for this meeting. To the Zephyrians, it looked like a toy made by children. The human ship docked with the flagship through a special airlock. 3 humans stepped out wearing their best military uniforms. They walked carefully in the stronger gravity of the alien ship. The air felt strange in their lungs. The lead human was a woman named Sarah Chun. She was Earth's top diplomat and spoke 7 human languages. Behind her walked General Robert Hayes, the head of Earth's combined military forces. The third human was Dr. Elena Martinez. Earth's best scientist and translator. Sarah Chun had spent her whole life solving problems between different groups of humans. She had ended 3 wars through careful talking and smart deals. She believed that any problem could be solved if people were willing to listen to each other. She was about to learn how wrong she could be. The humans were escorted through hallways. That seemed to go on forever. Everything was huge. The ceilings were 3 times taller than needed for humans. The walls showed pictures of great Empire victories on 1,000 different worlds. The message was clear. Submit or be destroyed. They entered a vast room where Admiral Kethver waited on a raised platform. Around him stood dozens of other Zephyrian officers. Their gray skin and cold black eyes showed no emotion. They wore uniforms covered in medals and symbols of rank. Everything about them screamed power and control. So these are the famous humans, Kethver said. His voice was translated into English through small devices the humans wore. You are smaller than our report suggested. And you look very fragile? Sarah Chun stepped forward and bowed slightly, showing respect. Admiral, I am Ambassador Sarah Chun. I represent all the people of Earth. We are honored to meet you and learn about your great civilization. More laughter filled the room. The Zephyrians found the human attempt at diplomacy amusing. Honored? Kethver repeated. Child, do you understand your situation? We could destroy every city on your planet with a single command. Your entire species could be ended before your sun sets today. And you talk about honor? Sarah kept her voice calm and steady. We understand you have great power, Admiral. But we believe that power is best used to protect and help others, not to hurt them. We want to join the galactic community as friends and equals. The laughter grew louder. Some of the Zephyrian officers were wiping tears from their eyes. Equals? Kethver stood up from his chair. Look around you, human. This ship alone has more technology than your entire world. We have ruled the galaxy since before your species. Learned to make tools. We have destroyed civilizations that were 1,000 times more advanced than yours. What makes you think you could ever be our equals? General Hayes spoke for the first time. Because we're still here talking instead of fighting. That shows we both want the same thing, peace. Kethver's expression turned dark. No, General. It shows that you know you cannot win a fight against us. Your peace is just fear wearing a mask. Dr. Martinez pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared showing Earth from space. Admiral, our planet is beautiful and unique. We have art, music, literature, and science that could add something valuable to your empire. We have different ways of thinking and solving problems. Diversity makes everyone stronger. Diversity? Kethver walked down from his platform until he stood directly in front of the humans. Up close, he was even more frightening. His 4 arms could easily crush any of them. Diversity is chaos. Order is strength. The empire succeeds because everyone follows the same rules and thinks the same way. Your different thinking is exactly why you are still primitive. Sarah tried one. More time. Admiral, surely there's room in the galaxy for different ways of life. We don't want to threaten you or change you. We just want to exist peacefully and maybe learn from each other. Kethver turned his back on them and returned to his chair. Here are your options, humans. You have 72 standard hours to surrender completely. You will destroy all your weapons. You will accept an empire governor who will rule your world. You will provide workers and resources as we demand. Your military will be disbanded. Your governments will be replaced. And if we refuse? General Hayes asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we will show you why 40,000 worlds kneel before the empire. We will destroy your military forces. We will bomb your cities until you beg for mercy. We will kill millions of your people until the survivors have no choice but to submit. This is not a negotiation. This is us being generous enough to give you a choice. The room fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Sarah Chun felt her heart breaking. She had hoped so much that this meeting would be the start of something wonderful for humanity. Instead, it was the end of everything they held dear. Admiral, she said quietly, before we go, I want you to know something. Humans have a saying. When someone is about to make a terrible mistake, we try to warn them. We tell them to think carefully about what they're doing. Kethver looked at her with mild interest. And what is this warning, little human? Sarah looked directly into his black eyes. We tried to warn you, Admiral. We offered you friendship, trade, and peace. We offered to share what we have and learn what you could teach us. You're choosing war instead. She paused, letting her words sink in. You really should have listened. The Admiral laughed one more time. Is that supposed to be a threat? Are you trying to frighten me with your primitive weapons and tiny ships? No, Admiral, Sarah said as she turned to leave. It's not a threat, it's just something we want you to remember later. The 3 humans were escorted back to their ship in silence. As they prepared to return to Earth, Dr. Martinez looked back at the massive Zephyrian fleet filling space around them. Do you think they'll really do it? She asked. Do you think they'll attack us? General Hayes checked his equipment one. More time. They've already decided. They decided before we even got here. This whole meeting was just them playing with their food before they eat it. Sarah Chun started their engines and pointed their small ship toward Earth. Then we better get home and prepare. We have 72 hours to get ready for a war we never wanted with an enemy we can't beat. As their ship pulled away from the Zephyrian flagship, none of them looked back. They had work to do. Humanity's survival depended on what happened in the next 3 days. Behind them, Admiral Keffer watched their ship disappear into the darkness. He was already planning the invasion. It would be quick and clean, just like all the others. These humans seemed slightly more interesting than most primitives, but that wouldn't save them. He had no idea that he had just made the biggest mistake in the Empire's 10,000-year history. The humans were about to teach him and his perfect empire something that no other species had ever managed to show them. They were about to learn what happens when you threaten the one species in the galaxy that absolutely refuses to give up. The 72 hours passed quickly on Earth. When the deadline arrived, every human government gave the same answer. No surrender, no submission. No deal. Admiral Keffer received the response while sitting in his command chair. He had expected this. Primitives always chose the hard way first. They had to learn through pain before they understood their place in the galaxy. Begin the invasion, he ordered. Follow standard protocol. Orbital bombardment of military targets. First, then ground forces to major cities. I want this finished in 1 week. The Zephyrian fleet moved into position around Earth. Their massive ships blocked out the sun in some places. The humans watched from the ground as death approached from the sky. The first bombs fell on military bases around the world. Explosions lit up the night as human aircraft were destroyed on the ground. Naval bases vanished in pillars of fire. Missile sites disappeared in clouds of smoke. Within 6 hours, most of Earth's traditional military power was gone. Then the dropships came down. Colonel Vextar led the first wave of ground troops. He was a veteran of 200 campaigns across the galaxy. His purple scales and sharp claws marked him as a warrior born. He had seen fear in the eyes of 1,000 different species. Today would be no different. His troops landed in 12 major cities around Earth: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing. The pattern was always the same. Land in the city center. Set up a command post. Wait for the local leaders to surrender. Accept their submission. Move on to the next target, but something was wrong from the very beginning. The humans were not where they were supposed to be. The cities were not empty, but they were not full either. Most of the people had vanished. The streets were quiet except for the sound of Zephyrian boots on concrete. Where are they? Asked Captain Morden as his squad moved through empty streets. In downtown Los Angeles. The intelligence report said 8 million humans lived in this area. I see maybe a few thousand. Underground, probably, Vextar replied through his communicator. Hiding in their burrows like frightened animals. We will dig them out, but the humans were not hiding in fear. They were preparing. The first attack came at night in Tokyo. Sergeant Kesville was leading a patrol through the business district when the street exploded beneath his feet. The humans had planted bombs in the sewers and waited for the perfect moment. 3 Zephyrian soldiers died instantly. 2 more were badly wounded. Ambush! Kesville shouted into his radio. We need medical support and backup immediately. But no backup came. Every patrol in the city was under attack at the same time. The humans had coordinated their strikes perfectly. They hit the aliens from above and below, from buildings and tunnels. With weapons that should not have existed, Captain Lisa Rodriguez led one of the human attack teams in Mexico City. She was a former police officer who had spent the last 3 days learning how to use captured alien technology. Her team carried weapons that mixed human engineering with Zephyrian energy systems. Remember the plan? She whispered to her squad as they prepared to attack an alien patrol. Hit fast. Take their equipment and disappear before they can call for help. We are not trying to win battles. We are trying to learn how they work. The attack lasted 30 seconds. The humans appeared from manholes and rooftops, fired their hybrid weapons, grabbed what they could carry, and vanished back into the maze of city streets. The Zephyrian patrol never had a chance to fight back properly. This pattern repeated across every invaded city. The aliens would try to establish control. The humans would attack, steal equipment, and disappear. Each attack taught the humans something new about their enemies. Dr. James Martinez worked in a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of MIT. He was Sarah Chun's brother and one of Earth's best engineers. Around him, dozens of scientists worked day and night to understand Zephyrian technology. "Look at this," he said to his assistant as he examined a captured alien weapon. "Their energy systems are incredibly advanced, but they are built for reliability, not innovation. Everything follows the same basic design patterns. They have not changed their technology in hundreds of years. What does that mean for us?" asked Dr. Sarah Kim, a former NASA engineer. "It means they think in straight lines," Martinez replied. "They build things the same way they always have because it works, but we think differently. We can take their technology and make it do things they never imagined." The humans had one huge advantage that the Zephyrians did not understand. Earth was a world where everything tried to kill everything else. Humans had evolved to survive against predators, diseases, natural disasters, and each other. They were used to fighting enemies that were bigger, stronger, and better armed. The Zephyrians had conquered species that fought like them, organized armies with clear battle lines, honor codes that limited how wars were fought, rules that everyone followed. Humans had no such rules. Private Maria Santos had been a gang member in Los Angeles before the invasion. She knew every tunnel, sewer, and hidden passage in her neighborhood. Now she used that knowledge to hunt aliens. "They move in groups of 12, she reported to her resistance cell. "Always the same formation, always the same tactics. They expect us to fight like soldiers, but we are not soldiers. We are survivors." Her team hit the aliens where they were weakest. They poisoned water supplies that the aliens used. They collapsed buildings when patrols walked underneath. They used the aliens' own communication systems to send false orders that led troops into traps. Colonel Vextar found himself dealing with problems he had never faced before. His troops were disappearing. One by one, equipment was being stolen. Communication lines were being cut. Supply convoys were being attacked by enemies who seemed to appear from nowhere. "These humans fight like cowards," he complained to Admiral Kethver during their daily briefing. "They will not face us in open battle. They attack and run like insects, then crush them like insects," Kethver replied. "Use overwhelming force. Destroy every building they could hide in. Level entire city blocks if necessary." But destroying the cities only made things worse. The humans used the rubble as cover. They turned the ruins into mazes that only they could navigate. Every pile of debris became a potential hiding spot for an ambush. Meanwhile, the human resistance was growing stronger every day. Word spread through hidden communication networks. Normal people became fighters. Teachers, doctors, farmers, and students all joined the fight. Captain Sarah Chun had returned to Earth after the failed diplomatic mission. Now she coordinated resistance activities from a bunker beneath Washington, D.C. She used her diplomatic skills to unite different human groups under one command. "We cannot beat them with strength," she told resistance leaders from around the world during a secret video conference. "But we can beat them with intelligence. They expect us to act like every other species they have conquered. We need to be something they have never seen before." The humans started using tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They dressed as civilians and attacked when the aliens lowered their guard. They used children to carry messages and weapons through areas the aliens did not search carefully. They turned schools and hospitals into weapon factories. Most shocking of all to the Zephyrians, the humans seemed willing to die for their cause. Alien soldiers were trained to retreat when facing superior odds. Self-preservation was logical and smart. But humans would throw themselves into hopeless battles if it meant protecting their families or saving their cities. Corporal Deaton experienced this firsthand during a raid on a human weapons cache in Berlin. His squad had surrounded the building and demanded surrender. Instead of giving up, the humans inside detonated explosives that destroyed the entire building along with themselves and half of Deaton's squad. Why would they do that? He asked his sergeant later. They could have surrendered and lived. Now they are all dead for nothing. Because they are insane, the sergeant replied. All humans are insane. They do not think like civilized beings. But the humans were not insane. They were desperate. And desperate humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, Doctor. Martinez's team made their first major breakthrough after 2 weeks of constant work. They had figured out how to disrupt Zephyrian shield technology using modified human electronics. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and physical projectiles, he explained to a group of resistance fighters. But they were never tested against quantum interference patterns. We can use modified cell phone towers to create dead zones where their shields will not work. The first test happened in Chicago. When a Zephyrian patrol entered the interference zone, their personal shields flickered and died. Human snipers, hiding in ruined buildings, opened fire with simple bullet weapons. 3 aliens died before the others could retreat. Within days, every major city had quantum interference zones. The aliens found themselves vulnerable to human weapons for the first time since the invasion began. Colonel Vextar sent increasingly desperate reports to his admiral. Sir, I am losing control of the situation. These humans adapt faster than any species I have ever encountered. Every time we develop a countermeasure for their tactics, they change their tactics. Every time we try to predict their behavior, they do something completely unexpected. Admiral Kethver was growing frustrated with his ground commander's failures. Colonel, you have the finest troops in the galaxy. You have superior weapons, superior armor, and superior training. How can you be losing to primitive humans with improvised weapons? Because they do not fight like primitives, sir, Vextar replied. They fight like demons. They use tactics that no sane species would consider. They turn every weakness into a strength and every strength into a target. And sir ... What? They are learning from us faster than we are learning from them. This was the truth that Admiral Kethver was not ready to hear. The humans were not just resisting the invasion. They were studying it. Every alien weapon they captured was reverse-engineered. Every alien prisoner was questioned extensively. Every alien tactical mistake was noted and exploited. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 40,000 worlds using the same basic strategies. Show overwhelming force. Demand surrender, use superior technology to crush resistance. It had worked perfectly for 10,000 years. But the humans were different from every other species the Empire had encountered. They did not break when shown superior force. They did not surrender when facing impossible odds. And most importantly, they did not accept that superior technology made victory impossible. Instead, they learned, they adapted, they evolved. And they were getting stronger every day. By the end of the first month, Admiral Kethver faced a situation that no Zephyrian commander had dealt with in centuries. His invasion was not just stalled, it was failing. The humans were not supposed to be able to fight back effectively. They were not supposed to be able to steal and use alien technology. They were not supposed to coordinate global resistance efforts while under siege. But they were doing all of these things and more. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kethver began to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. The humans had tried to warn him. They had offered peace and friendship. Now they were offering something very different. Now they were offering a war unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. 6 months after the invasion began, Admiral Kethver stared at reports that made no sense. His forces controlled none of the major human cities. Supply lines were constantly under attack. Equipment losses were mounting every day. 3 of his best colonels had requested immediate evacuation from Earth. This was not how invasions were supposed to work. The humans had done something impossible. They had turned their entire planet into a weapon. Every street, every building, every tunnel had become part of their resistance network. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting not just human soldiers, but human civilians who knew their home terrain better than any invader ever could. Captain Maria Santos had become one of the most wanted humans on the alien bounty list. Her resistance cell in Los Angeles had grown from 12 people to over 3,000. They controlled the entire downtown area through a network of tunnels that the aliens could not map or navigate. "Today we take the alien command post at City Hall," she told her fighters during their morning briefing. "Intelligence says they have 20 guards and a communication array we need. Remember, we go in from above and below at the same time. Take everything useful and disappear before reinforcements arrive." Her fighters were not professional soldiers. They were teachers, mechanics, store clerks, and students who had learned to fight through necessity. But they had advantages that the aliens could not match. They knew every secret passage in the city. They understood how human-built structures worked. Most importantly, they were fighting for their homes and families. The attack began at dawn. Human fighters emerged from storm drains while others rappelled down from nearby skyscrapers. The alien guards were trained to watch for attacks from ground level. They never expected enemies to appear from the sewers and the sky at the same time. The battle lasted 15 minutes. When it was over, the aliens were dead or captured, and the humans had disappeared with enough equipment to arm 50 more fighters. By the time Zephyrian reinforcements arrived, the command post was empty except for botas and a message painted on the wall in alien script. "We tried to warn you." Colonel Vextar arrived at the scene an hour later. He stood in the ruined command post, surrounded by the botas of his soldiers. His hands shook with rage as he read the human message. This was the 15th major attack this week. His forces were being picked apart piece by piece. "Sir," said Lieutenant Kesmore, one of his few remaining officers, "the humans took our entire communication system. They also captured Sergeant Delvin alive. That means they now have access to our tactical frequencies and our base locations." Vextar closed his eyes and tried to think. In 200 years of military service, he had never faced an enemy like this. The humans seemed to know everything about Zephyrian tactics, but the aliens knew almost nothing about human capabilities. "Send a message to Admiral Kethver," he ordered. "Tell him I need the Second Fleet immediately. These humans are not primitives. They are something else entirely." Meanwhile, deep beneath the ruins of MIT, Dr. James Martinez was having the best day of his scientific career. His team had successfully reverse-engineered Zephyrian shield technology and improved it. The human version was smaller, more efficient, and could be powered by modified car batteries. "Look at this," he said excitedly to Dr. Sarah Kim as he activated a prototype shield generator. A blue energy field appeared around the device, deflecting everything they threw at it. "Their shields are designed to stop traditional weapons, but we modified the frequency modulation to be adaptive. Our shields actually get stronger when they are attacked." "How is that possible?" Kim asked. "Because we think differently than they do," Martinez replied. "They build technology to work the same way every time. We build technology to learn and change. Their shields are like walls. Our shields are like living things that grow stronger under pressure." The breakthrough came at the perfect time. Admiral Kethver had just received approval from Empire High Command to bring in the Second Fleet. 50,000 additional troops were coming to Earth, along with orbital bombardment capabilities that could level entire cities. Captain Sarah Jung received the intelligence about the Second Fleet through her network of human spies. Some of them were captured aliens who had been turned against their own people. Others were humans who had learned to infiltrate Zephyrian communication systems. "They are planning to destroy every major city on Earth," she told the Global Resistance leadership during an emergency meeting. "The Second Fleet has weapons that can kill millions of people in minutes. We have to stop them before they arrive." "How?" asked Commander Jackson from the European Resistance. "We barely have enough weapons to fight the forces already here." "How can we possibly fight an entire fleet in space?" Sarah smiled grimly. "Because my brother has been very busy." Show them, James. Dr. Martinez activated a holographic display that showed technical drawings for something that looked impossible. It was a spacecraft, but unlike anything humans had ever built before. It was small, fast, and covered in weapons that should not have existed. We call it the Reaper, Martinez explained. It uses Zephyrian engine technology with human engineering improvements. It is twice as fast as their fastest fighters and armed with weapons that can penetrate their shields. Best of all, it is small enough to hide among space debris until it is time to attack. How many have you built? Asked General Hayes. 50 so far, Martinez replied, with more coming online every day. We have been using alien manufacturing equipment that we captured. Their own machines are building weapons to destroy them. The plan was insane by any reasonable military standard. A handful of human pilots with minimal space combat training would attack the most powerful military force in the galaxy. But as Sarah Chun pointed out, humans had stopped being reasonable the day the aliens arrived. Commander Elena Vasquez would lead the first space mission in human history. She had been a test pilot before the invasion, flying experimental aircraft at the edge of Earth's atmosphere. Now she would pilot a ship built from alien technology into the depths of space. Remember, she told her squadron of 12 pilots, as they prepared for launch, we are not trying to defeat the entire Second Fleet. We are trying to delay them and steal as much intelligence as possible. Hit them fast, take what we can, and get out before they can respond. The human ships launched from hidden bases around the world. They were invisible to Zephyrian sensors because they used stealth technology that had been reverse-engineered and improved. The aliens could detect their own ships easily, but they had never designed sensors to find ships that used their technology. In unexpected ways, the Second Fleet arrived at Earth 3 days later. Admiral Morketh commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel that was larger than most human cities. He had been told to expect heavy resistance from primitive humans with stolen weapons. He was not prepared for what actually happened. The human ships attacked from every direction at once. They appeared out of asteroid fields, from behind Earth's moon, and from within the wreckage of previously destroyed alien vessels. They moved faster than anything in the Zephyrian fleet and hit harder than ships their size should have been able to manage. What are those things? Admiral Morketh demanded as his fleet came under attack. They are too small to carry weapons that powerful. Unknown, sir, replied his tactical officer. They appear to be using modified versions of our own technology, but the power output readings are impossible. Their weapons should not work that way. Commander Vasquez led her squadron in a direct assault on the flagship's communication array. Her ship, the first Reaper, danced between enemy fire with moves that no Zephyrian pilot would attempt. She flew like someone who had learned in Earth's gravity wells and atmospheric turbulence. Target acquired, she reported to her squadron, beginning attack run on their primary antenna. Cover me while I plant the virus. The virus was Dr. Martinez's latest creation. It was designed to infiltrate Zephyrian computer systems and steal every piece of tactical data they contained. More importantly, it would give the humans access to the Empire's military communication network. Vasquez's ship screamed toward the flagship at impossible speed. Alien fighters tried to intercept her, but she outmaneuvered them using tactics that violated every principle of space combat. She flew her ship like it was an extension of her own body, making turns and rolls that should have killed her from the acceleration forces. She reached the antenna and fired a special projectile that contained the virus. The projectile penetrated the flagship's shields and embedded itself in the communication system. Within seconds, human code was spreading through the entire Zephyrian network. Package delivered, Vasquez reported. All units withdraw immediately. Time to go home. The human ships disappeared as quickly as they had appeared. They vanished into space debris fields and behind planetary bodies, leaving the Zephyrian fleet confused and angry. The attack had lasted only 20 minutes, but the damage was far greater than the aliens realized. Dr. Martinez smiled as data began flowing into his computers from the virus. We are now connected to their entire military network, he announced. To the Resistance leadership, we can read their messages, track their ship movements, and even send false orders if we are careful. But the humans had accomplished something even more important than gaining access to alien communications. They had proven that Earth's space defenses were real and dangerous. The Zephyrian Empire faced something they had never encountered before. A species that could fight them in space using their own technology against them. Admiral Kethver received the report about the space battle with growing dread. The humans had somehow built a space fleet in 6 months. They had weapons that could damage Empire vessels. Most shocking of all, they had pilots who could outfly trained Zephyrian aces. How is this possible? He demanded during his emergency conference with Admiral Morkith. 6 months ago, these creatures had never left their own planet. Now they have ships that can challenge our finest vessels? I do not know, sir, Morkith replied, but I recommend we request additional reinforcements from High Command. These humans are not like any enemy we have faced before. High Command's response was swift and harsh. Denied. You have 2 full fleets and 100,000 troops. If you cannot defeat primitive humans with those resources, you do not deserve to wear Empire uniforms. Crush them immediately or face court-martial for incompetence. The message was clear. No more help was coming. The forces already at Earth would have to finish the job or face the consequences of failure. Admiral Kethver made a decision that would change the course of the war. If High Command wanted results, he would give them results. He ordered the complete orbital bombardment of every major human city. Millions would die, but the resistance would finally be broken. Sir, Colonel Vextar said quietly, that will violate 17 different Empire treaties about warfare against civilian populations. High Command specifically forbids the mass killing of non-combatants. These humans have made every civilian a combatant, Kethver replied. They have turned their entire planet into a military target. We will treat it accordingly. The bombardment began at dawn. Massive energy beams lanced down from space, turning entire city blocks into molten glass. The aliens expected to hear surrender broadcasts within hours. Instead, they got something very different. The humans sent a single message to every Zephyrian ship in the system. It was transmitted on all frequencies in perfect alien script. The message was simple and terrifying in its implications. You have just made your final mistake. We are no longer playing defense. Now you burn. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in bunkers that the aliens had never found, humanity's real weapons were coming online. The resistance had been just the beginning. The space fighters had been just a test. Now the humans were ready to show the Empire what they were truly capable of. The war was about to change in ways that would shock the galaxy. The orbital bombardment of Earth cities was supposed to break human resistance once and for all. Instead, it triggered something that Admiral Kethver could never have imagined. The humans stopped pretending to be a primitive species defending their homeworld. They revealed what they had really become during 6 months of total war. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, massive doors opened for the first time since the invasion began. What emerged shocked even the human resistance fighters who thought they knew all of their planet's secrets. Hundreds of spacecraft rose from hidden underground facilities, each one larger and more advanced than the Reaper fighters that had attacked the Second Fleet. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the first human warship ever built. The ship was called Defiance, and it was 3 times the size of the largest Zephyrian cruiser. Its hull was covered in weapons that mixed human creativity with alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. All stations report ready, announced Lieutenant Commander Jackson, her second in command. Weapon systems are online, shields are at maximum power. Engineering reports all systems are operating beyond normal parameters. Vasquez smiled grimly as she looked at the tactical display showing Zephyrian ships in orbit around Earth. Good. It is time to return the favor. Target the flagship and prepare to fire everything we have. The human fleet that emerged from Earth's hidden facilities was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever encountered. The ships moved wrong. They accelerated too fast. They turned too sharply. They carried weapons that were too powerful for their size. Everything about them violated the known laws of spacecraft design. Admiral Kethver watched in horror as his sensors detected the approaching human fleet. "That is impossible," he whispered. "Primitives cannot build ships like that. Our intelligence report said they barely understood space travel 6 months ago." "Sir," his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice, "I am reading weapon signatures that match our most advanced military technology. But the power output is 3 times higher than our specifications allow. How can their weapons be more powerful than ours when they are built from our own designs?" The answer was simple, though the Zephyrians could not understand it. Humans did not just copy alien technology, they improved it. They took designs that had remained unchanged for thousands of years and made them better through innovation, creativity, and the willingness to try things that had never been attempted before. Dr. James Martinez had spent 6 months not just reverse engineering Zephyrian technology, but completely rebuilding it from the ground up. His team had discovered that alien engineers built things to last forever and work exactly the same way every time. Human engineers built things to be improved, modified, and pushed beyond their original limits. Their weapon systems are designed for reliability, he had explained to the shipbuilders. Ours are designed for maximum effectiveness. Their ships are built to follow predictable flight patterns. Ours are built to do whatever the pilot needs them to do, even if it kills the pilot in the process. The human fleet attacked with tactics that no civilized species would consider. They rammed larger ships with smaller ones. They used their own vessels as missiles when conventional weapons were not enough. They flew in formations that should have resulted in constant collisions, but somehow worked perfectly. Captain Maria Santos, now commanding her own warship called Vengeance, led a squadron of 12 ships against the Zephyrian battle group. Her ships moved like a pack of wolves, working together to isolate and destroy larger prey. "Remember," she told her squadron over the communication system, "we are not trying to fight fair. We are trying to win. Use every dirty trick, you know. Hit them where they are weakest and run when they try to fight back properly." Her ships scattered in all directions when the aliens fired their main weapons, then regrouped behind the enemy formation to attack their engines and command centers. The Zephyrian ships were designed for honorable combat between evenly matched opponents. They could not adapt to enemies who refused to follow the rules of warfare. The battle in Earth's orbit lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Second Fleet had been completely destroyed. Admiral Morketh's flagship drifted in space as a burning wreck. Most of his other ships had been captured by human boarding parties who fought with a savagery that shocked their prisoners, but the humans were not finished. They had spent 6 months learning everything they could about Zephyrian military procedures, communication systems, and strategic planning. Now they used that knowledge to do something that no conquered species had ever attempted. They took the war to the Empire. Commander Vasquez stood before a holographic display that showed the entire local region of space. Red dots marked Zephyrian military bases, supply depots, and communication stations. Blue dots showed human ships moving toward those targets with deadly purpose. "Phase 1 is complete," she announced to the combined human fleet. "Earth is secure and the immediate threat has been eliminated. Phase 2 begins now. We are going to show the Empire what happens when they threaten humanity." Captain Sarah Chun had taken command of a special operations vessel called Shadow. Her ship was designed for stealth and infiltration rather than direct combat. Her mission was to penetrate deep into Empire space and gather intelligence about their major military installations. "Remember," she told her crew as they prepared to jump to hyperspace, "we are no longer fighting for survival. We are fighting to make sure this never happens again. The Empire needs to learn that humanity is not a species they can threaten without consequences." The human ships scattered across known space, attacking targets that the Empire had considered completely secure. Supply convoys vanished without trace. Communication stations went silent. Military outposts reported mysterious attacks by ships that appeared from nowhere and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. The attacks followed patterns that the Zephyrians could not predict or counter. Human ships would strike at a target, steal everything useful, and then hit another target hundreds of light years away before the aliens could respond. They moved faster than any ships in the Empire fleet and seemed to know exactly where to find the most valuable targets. Admiral Kethver found himself fighting a war unlike anything in Empire history. His remaining forces were scattered across dozens of star systems, chasing human ships that always stayed one step ahead of his patrols. Every day brought reports of new attacks, new losses, and new evidence that the humans were getting stronger while his own forces grew weaker. "Sir," Colonel Vexstar reported during their daily briefing, "we have lost contact with 17 supply depots, 12 communication stations, and 6 military bases in the last week alone. The humans are systematically dismantling our entire support structure in this region of space." "How are they moving so fast?" Kethver demanded. "Our ships are faster than anything they should be able to build. How are they reaching targets before we can defend them?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Martinez had not just improved human weapons and shields. He had completely revolutionized their understanding of faster-than-light travel. Human ships could now move through hyperspace in ways that Zephyrian engineers had declared impossible. Their jump drives follow standard navigation protocols, Martinez had explained to the fleet commanders. They can only travel along established hyperspace routes between known jump points. Our drives can create new routes and jump to any location in space. We can appear anywhere at any time. This technological breakthrough gave humanity a devastating advantage. Human ships could attack any target in the galaxy and retreat before the enemy could respond. They could coordinate strikes across multiple star systems simultaneously. Most importantly, they could strike at the heart of the Empire itself. The first attack on a major Empire world came without warning. The planet Zephyr Prime was the administrative center for an entire sector of space. It was heavily defended and considered absolutely secure. The humans destroyed its orbital defenses in 20 minutes and landed troops on the surface before the planet's leaders even realized they were under attack. Captain Santos led the ground assault on the planetary government complex. Her troops moved through the building like ghosts, capturing important officials and stealing classified information with surgical precision. They left behind a message that was broadcast across the entire sector. "This is a message from humanity to the Zephyrian Empire. You invaded our world without provocation. You tried to enslave our people. You killed millions of innocent civilians. Now you will face the consequences of your actions. Surrender now, or we will tear down everything you have built." The attack on Zephyr Prime sent shockwaves throughout the Empire. If humans could strike at a major administrative world, nowhere was safe. Panic spread through the military command structure as admirals realized that their perfect defensive systems were useless against enemies who could appear anywhere without warning. High Command finally began to understand the true scope of their mistake. The humans were not just fighting back against the invasion of Earth. They were systematically destroying the Empire's ability to wage war anywhere in the galaxy. Every attack made them stronger while making their enemies weaker. Admiral Kethver received new orders from the Supreme Council. He was to negotiate an immediate ceasefire with the humans and offer whatever terms were necessary to end the conflict. The Empire was ready to admit defeat for the first time in its 10,000-year history. But when he tried to contact the human fleet, he received a response that chilled him to his bones. Commander Vasquez appeared on his communication screen with a smile that promised nothing but destruction. "Admiral," she said calmly, 6 months ago, our diplomat Sarah Chun offered you peace, friendship, and cooperation. You laughed at her. You threatened to destroy our cities and enslave our people. You called us primitives and insects. That was a mistake, Kethver admitted. We are prepared to negotiate terms for your withdrawal from Empire space. We can offer you territory, resources, whatever you need to end this conflict. Vasquez's smile grew wider and more terrifying. Admiral, I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not withdrawing from Empire space, we are conquering it. The question is not what you can offer us to make us stop. The question is what you can offer us to make us let you live. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Kethver staring at a blank screen. For the first time in his life, he understood what true fear felt like. The humans had become something beyond his worst nightmares. They were no longer the primitives who had begged for peace 6 months ago. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, and they were hunting the Empire to extinction. In the depths of space, human ships continued their relentless advance toward the heart of Zephyrian civilization. They moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of careful planning and absolute determination. The Empire had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Now they would face the consequences of that mistake. The final phase of the war began when humanity stopped holding back. For 8 months, they had been learning, adapting, and building their strength. Now they were ready to end the Zephyrian Empire once and for all. The human fleet had grown beyond anything the aliens thought possible. Hundreds of warships emerged from hidden construction facilities around Earth and throughout human-controlled space. Each ship was more advanced than the last, incorporating lessons learned from every battle and every captured piece of alien technology. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the newest human flagship, a massive vessel called Retribution. The ship was larger than anything the Zephyrians had ever built, armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets, and crewed by humans who had learned to fight among the stars as naturally as their ancestors had fought on Earth. All fleet commanders, this is Vasquez, she announced over the communication system that now connected human forces across the galaxy. Today we end this war. Today we make sure that no alien empire will ever threaten humanity again. All ships begin the final advance. The human fleet moved toward the heart of Zephyrian space with the precision of a hunting pack and the power of a force of nature. They had studied Empire star charts, captured enemy supply routes, and identified every critical target in the alien civilization. This would not be a random attack. This would be the systematic dismantling of everything the Empire had built. Captain Maria Santos commanded the Advanced Scout Force, a group of fast ships designed to clear the way for the main fleet. Her ships had been attacking Empire outposts for months, learning their weaknesses and destroying their ability to resist the coming invasion. Target confirmed, she reported as her ships approached the Empire's primary shipyard facility. Zephyrian Construction Complex is defended by 48 warships and 12 orbital defense platforms. Beginning attack run now. The battle was over before it really began. Human ships moved with speed and coordination that the defenders could not match. They struck from multiple directions at once, using weapons that the Zephyrians had never seen before and tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Santos watched as the alien shipyard exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Target destroyed, no survivors detected. Moving to next objective, this pattern repeated across the Empire. Human forces appeared without warning, destroyed their targets completely, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Every attack was calculated to cause maximum damage to the Empire's ability to fight back. Dr. James Martinez had spent the last months developing weapons specifically designed to target Zephyrian biology and technology. His laboratories had studied, captured aliens extensively, learning their weaknesses and creating tools to exploit them. Their computer systems are vulnerable to quantum viruses, he had explained to the fleet commanders. Their shields cannot adapt to rapidly changing frequencies. Most importantly, their command structure breaks down completely when communications are disrupted. Take out their ability to coordinate, and their entire military becomes useless. The humans implemented these discoveries with ruthless efficiency. Alien fleets found their computers infected with viruses that turned their own weapons against them. Shield systems failed at critical moments, leaving ships defenseless against human attacks. Command networks collapsed as human hackers took control of Zephyrian communication systems, but the most devastating weapon humanity deployed was not technological. It was psychological. Captain Sarah Chung had returned to her diplomatic role. But now she represented a conquering power rather than a desperate planet seeking peace. She appeared on communication screens throughout the Empire, delivering messages that struck fear into the hearts of every Zephyrian citizen. "People of the Empire," she announced during one of her broadcasts, "your leaders promised you that humans were primitive insects who could be crushed easily. Look around you now. Your fleets are burning. Your worlds are falling. Your mighty empire is crumbling before the power of the species you thought were beneath you." Her words were carefully chosen to maximize their impact. The Zephyrians had built their entire civilization on the belief that they were superior to all other species. Watching that civilization fall to creatures they had dismissed as primitives was destroying their will to resist. Admiral Kethver found himself commanding a fleet that barely existed anymore. Most of his ships had been destroyed or captured. His remaining officers were requesting permission to surrender. His own homeworld was under attack by human forces that seemed unstoppable. "Sir," Colonel Vexstar reported during what both knew would be their final briefing, "the humans have captured 12 more worlds in the last week. Our defense networks are completely compromised. Our supply lines are cut. Our communication systems are under enemy control. I recommend we request immediate terms for surrender." Kethver looked at the tactical display showing the collapse of everything he had served his entire life. Red markers indicated human-controlled territory, which now covered most of the Empire's former domain. Blue markers showed the few remaining Zephyrian strongholds, all of which were under siege. "What terms could we possibly offer?" he asked. Quietly, "What do we have left that they could want?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The Supreme Council of the Zephyrian Empire, the highest authority in their civilization, sent a direct communication to the human fleet. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire was ready to negotiate as the weaker party. Emperor Zekthul himself appeared on the communication screen, his ancient features showing the weight of defeat. He was surrounded by the few surviving members of the Supreme Council, all of them looking like broken shadows of their former selves. "Commander Vasquez," he began, his voice carrying the formal tones of imperial authority that now sounded hollow and meaningless. "I am Emperor Zekthul, Supreme Ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. I request immediate negotiations for the cessation of hostilities between our peoples." Vasquez looked at the alien emperor with the same cold expression she had shown Admiral Kethver months earlier. "Your Majesty," she replied with mock politeness, "I am honored to speak with the leader of the 40,000 worlds. Though I notice there are considerably fewer worlds under your control now than there were when this conversation started. We are prepared to offer significant concessions," the Emperor continued. "Territory, resources, technology. We can provide whatever compensation you require for the damage caused by this unfortunate conflict." "Unfortunate conflict?" Vasquez repeated, her voice growing dangerously quiet. "Your Majesty, let me remind you how this unfortunate conflict began. Your forces invaded our world without provocation. Your admiral laughed when we offered peace. Your troops killed millions of innocent civilians. You tried to enslave our entire species because you thought we were too primitive to resist." The Emperor's composure began to crack under the weight of her words. Those were tactical errors in judgment, military commanders acting without proper authority. The Empire intended exactly what happened," Vasquez interrupted. "You have done this to 1,000 other species over 10,000 years. The only difference is that this time you picked the wrong target." Captain Santos, now serving as Vasquez's military advisor, stepped forward to address the Alien Council. "Your Majesty, you seem to be under the impression that you are in a position to negotiate terms. Let me clarify the actual situation. You have no functioning military. You control less than 10% of your former territory. Your people are surrendering faster than we can process the paperwork. You are not negotiating terms. You are begging for mercy." The truth of those words hit the Zephyrian leadership. Like a physical blow, their mighty empire, which had dominated the galaxy for millennia, had been reduced to a handful of terrified survivors pleading with their former victims. Emperor Zekthal tried one more time to salvage something from the disaster. What do you want from us? What terms would be acceptable for ending this conflict? Commander Vasquez leaned back in her command chair and smiled the same terrifying smile that had haunted Admiral Keffer as nightmares. Your Majesty, I think you still do not understand your situation. This conflict will end when we decide it should end. The terms will be whatever we choose them to be. You no longer have the luxury of negotiation. She gestured to Captain Chun, who stepped forward to deliver humanity's final terms to the broken empire. The Zephyrian Empire will cease to exist. As a political entity, Chun announced with the same diplomatic precision she had once used to offer peace. All former Empire worlds will either join the new Galactic Federation under human leadership or be granted independence under human protection. All Zephyrian military forces will be disbanded immediately. All weapons of mass destruction will be surrendered to human authorities. The Emperor's face went pale as he realized the scope of what was being demanded. You are asking us to surrender our entire civilization? No, Your Majesty, Chun replied calmly. We are telling you to surrender your entire civilization. The alternative is complete extinction. Choose wisely. The silence that followed lasted for several minutes. Finally, Emperor Zekthal spoke in a voice that barely qualified as a whisper. We accept your terms. Excellent, Vasquez said with genuine satisfaction. Admiral Keffer will be transferred to Earth to oversee the transition process. All Zephyrian military commanders will report to human authorities for debriefing and reassignment. The Supreme Council will remain under house arrest until the new government structure is established. As the communication ended, Vasquez turned to her senior staff with the expression of grim satisfaction. Send word to all human forces. The war is over. We won. But the real victory was not just military. It was philosophical. Humanity had proven something that no other species in the galaxy had ever demonstrated. They had shown that technological superiority and military tradition meant nothing against creativity, adaptability, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chun stood before the newly formed Galactic Federation Council, addressing representatives from over 1,000 worlds that had once been part of the Zephyrian Empire. Many of those representatives were former enemies who had learned to respect and fear humanity's capabilities. The old empire ruled through fear and force, she told the assembled delegates. The new federation will be built on cooperation and mutual respect. Every species will have a voice in their own governance. Every world will be protected from aggression, and every civilization will be free to develop according to their own values and traditions. She paused to look directly at the Zephyrian delegation, which included Admiral Kethver and Colonel Vexstar. Both aliens had adapted to their new reality with surprising grace, accepting their roles in a universe where humans set the rules. But make no mistake, Chun continued, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who spoke for the apex predators of the galaxy. Any species that threatens the peace we have built will face the same fate as the old empire. Humanity tried to warn the Zephyrians. We offered them friendship and cooperation. They chose war instead. Her final words echoed through the council chamber with the weight of absolute certainty. They learned why that was a mistake. I trust that lesson will not need to be repeated. The former Admiral Kethver sat in the audience, listening to the human who had once begged for peace now dictating terms to the entire galaxy. He remembered her final words from that first meeting so long ago. We tried to warn you. You really should have listened. He had learned, far too late, that humans always meant exactly what they said. Now they burn no more. Now they ruled.
Tom Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on the power generator. The machine hummed back to life, its blue lights casting shadows across the maintenance room. 6 hours of work, but worth every minute. This generator provided power to a quarter of New Haven Colony's living spaces, including the apartment he shared with his daughter Emma. All fixed, boss? Asked Jack, the junior technician, who had been passing Tom tools for the past 2 hours. Should hold. For another month at least, Tom replied, putting his wrench back into his toolbox. These old T-90 models weren't built for the dust storms we get here. The colony of New Haven sat on a distant planet, rich with rare minerals. From space, it looked like a collection of white domes and towers spreading across reddish plains. The colony had been established 15 years ago, and Tom had been among the first wave of settlers. Back then he had come with his wife Mary, both of them young engineers looking for adventure and good pay. Now, at 42, Tom was a widowed father with graying temples and hands permanently stained with machine oil. You heading home now? Jack asked, helping Tom gather his equipment. Tom checked his watch. Need to pick up Emma from her friend's place first. It's her 8th birthday tomorrow. Jack smiled. Got something special planned? Cake from the community kitchen and a telescope. She's been talking about stars nonstop since her class visited the observatory deck last month. Tom's face softened when he spoke about his daughter. Since Mary died 2 years ago from a lung infection, Emma had become his whole world. Outside, the maintenance building, New Haven's artificial day was ending. The colony's light systems were shifting from bright white to a softer orange glow, mimicking an Earth sunset. The main dome's climate systems created a pleasant evening breeze. If you ignored the red sky visible through the transparent sections of the dome, it almost felt like a small town back on Earth. Tom walked along the curved path that led to the residential area. Workers were returning from their shifts, some nodding to Tom as they passed. Everyone knew everyone in a colony of just 12,000 people. Miller, a voice called. Tom turned to see Commander Wilson jogging toward him. Wilson oversaw colony, security, and his usual calm face now showed worry lines. Commander, what's up? Tom asked, immediately concerned. Wilson didn't seek people out after shifts without reason. Wilson lowered his voice. Nothing official yet, but we've been getting strange readings on the long-range scanners. Thought you should know since you helped install those systems when you first arrived. What kind of readings? Tom asked, his engineer's mind already working through possibilities. Energy signatures that don't match any known ship types in our database. They appear and disappear at random. The official line is sensor malfunctions, but Wilson trailed off. But you don't believe that, Tom finished for him. Wilson shook his head. I've been running security for 15 years across 3 colonies. Sensor ghosts don't behave like this. Have you reported it up the chain? Sent a message to Alliance headquarters 3 days ago. Still waiting for a response. Wilson sighed. Just keep your emergency kit updated. That's all I'm saying. Tom nodded, feeling a cold knot form in his stomach. New Haven was important to the Galactic Alliance for its mineral production, but it was also remote. Help was at least 5 days away at maximum speed. I appreciate the heads up, Tom said. I'll check the system logs tomorrow if you want a second opinion. Wilson clapped him on the shoulder. Thanks. And hey, I heard it's Emma's birthday tomorrow. Tell her Uncle Wilson says happy birthday. After Wilson left, Tom walked faster toward the residential sector. The playful sounds of children reached him before he turned the corner to see the small community park, where Emma often played with her friends. 5 children were taking turns on the swing set, while 2 parents watched. Nearby, Emma spotted him immediately. Dad, she called, her voice carrying across the park. She jumped off the swing and ran toward him, her brown curls bouncing around her face. She looked so much like Mary that sometimes it made Tom's chest hurt. Hey, Space Cadet, he said, kneeling to catch her in a hug. Ready to head home? Emma nodded against his shoulder. Mrs. Lee made cookies and I helped. She pulled back to look at him with wide blue eyes. Did you fix the big machine? Sure did. Power's all good for your birthday. Tomorrow. Tom stood, taking her small hand in his. Thank you for watching her, he called to Mrs. Lee, who waved back with a smile. As they walked home through the dimming light of the colony, Emma chatted about her day, the science lesson about planets, the drawing she made of their home, the game of tag that ended when Billy fell and scraped his knee. Tom listened, asking questions at the right moments, but part of his mind kept returning to Wilson's warning. He looked up at the clear dome above them, at the unfamiliar stars becoming visible as darkness fell. Somewhere out there, something might be watching. Something unknown. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of Building C, a simple 2-bedroom unit with basic furnishings. What made it special were the small touches. Emma's drawings on the walls, the plant collection Mary had started that Tom carefully maintained, the family photos displaying happier times. After dinner, as Emma was getting ready for bed, Tom checked their emergency kit. It contained 3 days of food and water, basic medical supplies, emergency blankets, and communication devices. He added extra batteries and his old service pistol from his time in colony security before Emma was born. "Dad?" Emma stood in the doorway of the storage closet, already in her star-patterned pajamas. "What are you doing?" Tom quickly closed the kit. "Just making sure everything's where it should be, honey. Ready for your story?" Later, after reading Emma's favorite book about a brave space explorer, Tom tucked her into bed. "Excited for tomorrow?" he asked, smoothing her hair. "Will we have chocolate cake?" Emma asked sleepily. "The biggest one Mrs. Parker at the kitchen can make," Tom promised. "And after school I have a special present for you." "Is it a puppy?" Emma asked hopefully. Tom laughed. "No puppies on New Haven yet, Space Cadet. The Colony Council is still voting on bringing animals from Earth." "Then what is it?" she persisted. "It's a surprise. That's how presents work." He kissed her forehead. "Sleep tight." After Emma fell asleep, Tom sat in the small living room with the lights dimmed. He accessed his tablet and linked to the colony's main system using his engineer clearance. The sensor logs showed exactly what Wilson had described: strange energy spikes appearing and disappearing. They didn't match any known ship signatures in the database. A chill ran through him as he noticed a pattern. The signals were getting stronger and occurring more frequently. Whatever was causing them was getting closer. Tom wanted to believe it was just a sensor issue, but his gut told him otherwise. He sent a message to Wilson. "Check the logs. We should run a full system diagnostic tomorrow." Before going to bed, Tom looked in on Emma one more time. Her face was peaceful in sleep, one arm wrapped around her favorite stuffed bear. Tom felt the fierce protectiveness that had defined his life since becoming a father. "Nothing's going to hurt you," he whispered. "Not while I'm around." As he prepared for bed, Tom didn't know that tomorrow would never come as planned, that the strange readings would materialize into something far worse than anyone had imagined, that Emma's birthday would be remembered not for cake and presents, but for what would become known across the galaxy as the New Haven Massacre, and that before the sun set again, Tom Miller would make a choice that would save his daughter's life and change the course of history. Tom woke to the sound of his alarm at 0500 hours, just as he did every morning. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the air recycling system. He rolled out of bed, stretched his tired muscles, and headed for the shower. The hot water was a luxury on New Haven, limited to 5 minutes per person per day, but it helped wash away the lingering fatigue from yesterday's generator repair. As he dressed in his standard gray maintenance uniform, Tom checked his tablet. No new messages from Commander Wilson about the strange readings, but there was a notification about increased atmospheric disturbances. The colony's weather control systems were reporting unusual patterns that the computers couldn't explain. "Probably just another dust storm brewing," Tom muttered to himself, though he didn't quite believe it. He moved quietly to the kitchen and began preparing a special birthday breakfast for Emma. Pancakes shaped like stars, a rare treat that required him to use a portion of their monthly sugar ration. As the first pancake sizzled in the pan, he heard Emma's bedroom door open. "Dad, are you making pancakes?" Her voice was still sleepy, but excitement quickly took over as she spotted the batter and the star-shaped mold. "Happy birthday, Space Cadet." Tom turned and scooped her up in a hug, spinning her around once before setting her down at the small kitchen table. 8 years old today? You're getting too big." Emma giggled. "I'm still the smallest in my class." Billy says I'm like a space mouse. Well, space mice are smart and quick, Tom replied, flipping a pancake. And they fit into small places where bigger creatures can't go. That's an advantage. As they ate breakfast, Tom noticed Emma kept looking at the wrapped package on the counter, her telescope carefully covered in colorful paper he had traded an extra work shift for. "Can I open it now?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. Tom checked the time. "How about after school? We'll have the whole evening to set it up and look at the stars." Emma nodded, though she couldn't hide her disappointment. "Promise?" "Promise. And tonight is clear, perfect for stargazing." Tom ruffled her hair. "Now go get dressed or we'll be late." As Emma got ready for school, Tom checked his tablet again. 3 new maintenance requests had come in overnight, but what caught his attention was a message from Wilson. "System diagnostic shows no errors. Meeting at Aero 900 to discuss next steps." A knot formed in Tom's stomach. If the diagnostic showed the sensors were working properly, then the readings were real. Something was out there. Outside, the morning light filtered through the dome, casting a reddish glow over the colony. As Tom and Emma walked to her school, he noticed more security, personnel than usual patrolling the main pathways. They were trying to look casual, but Tom recognized the subtle signs of heightened alert. Hands staying close to weapons, eyes constantly scanning, communication devices actively blinking. "Dad, look." Emma pointed upward. "The sky looks funny." Tom followed her gaze. Through the clear sections of the dome, the planet's red sky seemed darker than usual, with strange rippling patterns like waves on water. The colony's artificial weather shouldn't allow for such disturbances. Probably just some high-altitude winds, he said, trying to keep his voice light. "The planet has crazy weather, remember? That's why we live in this big bubble." At the school entrance, Tom knelt down to give Emma a hug. "Have a great day, birthday girl. I'll pick you up right here at 1500 hours. "And then telescope time?" Emma asked. "And then telescope time," Tom confirmed with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. As Emma disappeared into the school building, the smile faded completely. Instead of heading directly to his first maintenance job, Tom changed course toward the colony's security center. He needed to know what Wilson had found. The security center was a hub of quiet activity when Tom arrived. Technicians monitored screens displaying various sections of the colony, while security officers moved with purpose between stations. Wilson stood at the central console, his face grim as he studied a holographic display. "That doesn't look like the face of someone with good news," Tom said as he approached. Wilson didn't even try to smile. Long-range scanners picked up something big. "Entering the system about an hour ago. It's on an approach vector to New Haven." "A ship?" Tom asked. "We think so, but it's not responding to identification requests, and it doesn't match any alliance or known independent vessel configurations." Tom looked at the holographic display. The object was represented by a red dot moving steadily toward the blue sphere that represented their planet. "How long until it reaches orbit?" Wilson's jaw tightened. 2 hours, maybe less if it accelerates. We've sent emergency signals to Alliance headquarters, but the nearest patrol ship is 3 days out. "What about our defenses?" Tom asked, though he already knew the answer. New Haven was a mining colony, not a military outpost. Its defenses were designed to handle small-scale threats like pirates or smugglers, not whatever this was. "We've got 4 orbital defense platforms and 2 armed shuttles," Wilson said. "We're preparing them now, but if this thing is hostile and well-armed..." He left the sentence unfinished. Tom felt cold all over. "What can I do?" "Check the emergency shelters in sectors 3 and 4. Make sure the air filtration and power systems are fully operational. If we need to evacuate people underground, those shelters need to be ready." Tom nodded. "I'll get a team together right away." As he turned to leave, Wilson caught his arm. "Tom, it's Emma's birthday today, isn't it?" "Yes," Tom replied quietly. "If things go south, family residential units will be the first to evacuate. I've already put her name on the priority list." Tom swallowed hard. "Thanks, Wilson." For the next hour, Tom led a small team checking the emergency shelters. They verified power connections, tested communication systems, and ensured the air filtration units were working properly. All the while, updates came through their tablets. The unidentified vessel was still approaching, still not responding to communications. At 10:30 hours, Tom was deep in Shelter 4's maintenance shaft when all their tablets beeped simultaneously. With a colony-wide alert, unidentified vessel has entered orbit. All non-essential personnel return to quarters. This is not a drill. That's it, said Marta, one of the technicians working with Tom. We're done here anyway. Systems check out. They were climbing out of the maintenance shaft when the first explosion shook the colony. The lights flickered and dust rained down from the ceiling. What was that? Someone shouted. Tom's tablet lit up with a new message, this one marked with the highest priority. Colony under attack. Orbital Defense Platform 1 destroyed. All personnel enact emergency protocols immediately. More explosions followed, closer this time. The overhead lights went out completely, replaced seconds later by the dim red glow of emergency lighting. Door. Shelters, Tom ordered. Get them open and ready to receive people. As his team rushed to follow orders, Tom checked his tablet again. The secure communication channel with security was filled with frantic messages. The unidentified ship had opened fire without warning, taking out the orbital defense platforms with frightening precision. Now it was launching smaller craft toward the surface. Tom's blood ran cold as he realized what was happening. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a show of force. This was an invasion. His thoughts immediately turned to Emma. The school was in Sector 2, at least a 20-minute run from his current position. He had to get to her. Marta, he called. You're in charge here. I need to get to the school. Before she could respond, another explosion rocked the shelter, this one close enough to make the floor buckle. Through the small observation window, Tom could see black smoke rising from buildings in the distance. The colony's emergency sirens finally began to wail, their haunting sound echoing through the corridors. Over the shelter's communication system, a calm voice that Tom recognized as belonging to the colony administrator began giving instructions. This is not a drill. New Haven is under attack. Proceed immediately to your designated emergency shelter. Parents, do not attempt to reach schools. Teachers will bring children to designated shelters. But Tom knew the chaos that would ensue. He knew that in the panic, children could be separated from their groups, left behind, or trapped. I have to go, he told Marta, already moving toward the exit. Tom, wait, she called after him. It's not safe out there. But Tom was already running, his heart pounding in his chest. As he sprinted through the corridors of New Haven, the colony he had helped build, the home he had made for himself and Emma after Mary died, one thought consumed him. Get to Emma. Nothing else matters. The peaceful birthday morning had turned into a nightmare, and New Haven's first contact with an alien species was not the moment of wonder that humanity had hoped for. It was an attack without warning, without mercy, and without explanation. And Tom Miller was running straight toward the heart of it. The world around Tom had transformed into chaos. What was once a peaceful colony now resembled a war zone. Smoke filled the air, making it difficult to breathe. Emergency lights flashed red, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The constant wail of sirens mixed with distant explosions and screams. Tom ran through the streets of New Haven with a single purpose: reach Emma. His lungs burned from the smoke, but he pushed forward, dodging falling debris and panicked colonists who ran in all directions. The school, he gasped to himself, just get to the school. A massive explosion to his right sent him sprawling to the ground. When he looked up, he saw that the colony's main power station was now a smoking crater. The artificial gravity flickered, momentarily, creating a sickening sensation of weightlessness before stabilizing again. Tom pulled himself up and continued running. Ahead, he could see 3 security officers directing people toward a shelter entrance. Miller, one of them called out, recognizing him. Where are you going? Shelter's this way. My daughter's at the school, Tom shouted back, not slowing down. The teachers are bringing the kids to shelter too, the officer yelled. But Tom had seen too much chaos already to trust that Emma would make it safely. He had to be sure. As he rounded the corner to the street where Emma's school stood, Tom froze. Through the smoke, he could see shadowy figures, moving among the panicked colonists. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with bodies covered in what looked like armored plates. They carried weapons unlike anything Tom had seen before, long devices that emitted pulses of blue energy. Void hunters, someone whispered beside him. Tom turned to see an older man pressed against the wall. I was on a freighter that barely escaped them 5 years ago. They strip colonies bare, resources, technology, people. They take it all. A cold fear gripped Tom's heart. These weren't just attackers. They were invaders who had come to strip New Haven of everything, including its people. The school, Tom said. I need to get to the school. The man pointed to a narrow alleyway. Service tunnel entrance halfway down there. It'll take you behind the school building. Don't go through the main street. They're rounding people up. There. Tom nodded his thanks and slipped into the alley. He found the service tunnel entrance, a small hatch in the ground that led to the maintenance passages running beneath the colony. As chief maintenance engineer, Tom knew these tunnels better than almost anyone. The tunnel was dark, lit only by emergency lights spaced too far apart. Tom moved as quickly as he dared, counting the junctions until he reached the one that would lead up to the school's utility room. When he emerged from the tunnel into the school building, an eerie silence greeted him. The hallways were deserted, chairs and backpacks scattered as if everyone had left in a hurry. Tom moved quietly, listening for any sound. Emma, he called softly. Anyone here? A small sound came from one of the classrooms, a shuffle and a quick intake of breath. Tom pushed the door open slowly, ready to run if he encountered one of the void hunters. Instead, he found a group of 20 children huddled in the corner with 2 adults, Mrs. Parker, Emma's teacher, and Mr. Reed, the school's maintenance man. Mrs. Parker had her finger to her lips, signaling for silence, but her eyes widened in recognition when she saw Tom. Mr. Miller, she whispered. Thank goodness. And then Emma was running to him, tears streaming down her face. Tom caught her, in his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. Dad, she sobbed quietly. I was so scared. The big booms came and the lights went out and Mrs. Parker said we had to hide. You did good, Space Cadet, Tom whispered, stroking her hair. You did just right. He looked at Mrs. Parker. What happened? Why aren't you at the shelter? Mrs. Parker's face was pale with fear, but her voice remained steady. We were about to leave when we saw them, those things. They were taking people, loading them onto some kind of transport. We came back inside to hide. Mr. Reed added, I tried calling for help on the emergency channel, but communications are down. We were hoping someone would come looking for us. Tom nodded, thinking quickly. The main shelters aren't safe if these void hunters are rounding people up. We need to get to the emergency shuttles at the spaceport. The spaceport? Mrs. Parker looked doubtful. That's on the other side of the colony. It's our best chance, Tom insisted. These creatures, void hunters, they don't just attack. They harvest everything, including people. We need to get off New Haven altogether. A distant explosion punctuated his words, making the children whimper in fear. How do we get there? Mr. Reed asked. The main streets are too exposed. Tom thought for a moment. The maintenance tunnels. They run throughout the colony. It'll be tight and dark, but we can make it. He knelt down to address the children, keeping his voice calm despite the fear threatening to overwhelm him. Kids, we're going to play a game. We need to be quiet explorers going through secret tunnels. Like space mice, remember? Small and quiet and smart. Can you do that? Wide-eyed faces nodded back at him. Good. We'll go in a line. Mrs. Parker will lead. I'll be at the back. Hold hands and don't let go, no matter what. Emma tugged at his sleeve. Dad, I'm scared. Tom looked into his daughter's eyes, so much like her mother's. I know, Space Cadet, but you're brave too, and I'll be right behind you the whole time. They organized quickly. Mrs. Parker would lead, followed by the children in size order, with Mr. Reed in the middle and Tom bringing up the rear. Tom showed them the way back to the maintenance tunnel entrance he had used. It's going to be dark, he warned as they prepared to enter. Just follow the person in front of you and stay quiet. One by one, they climbed down into the tunnel. The smaller children needed help, and Tom lifted each one carefully through the hatch. Emma looked back at him before descending. Just like exploring a cave on a new planet, Tom said with forced cheerfulness. Once everyone was inside, Tom closed the hatch behind them. The tunnel stretched before them, dimly lit by emergency lights that cast long shadows. This way, Tom whispered, pointing left. The tunnel branches after about 100 meters. We need to take the right fork, then the third left. That'll put us on a path to the spaceport. They moved slowly at first, the children frightened by the darkness and the strange echoing sounds. Twice they had to stop and wait in complete silence, as heavy footsteps passed overhead, void hunters patrolling the streets above. The tunnels were a maze, but Tom navigated confidently. After 20 minutes of careful progress, they reached a junction where the tunnel widened slightly. "We can rest here for a minute," Tom said, noticing the smaller children were struggling to keep up. "Everyone sit down and take slow, quiet breaths." As the group rested, Tom checked his tablet. It could no longer connect to the colony's main network, but it still showed a map of the maintenance tunnels. They were about halfway to the spaceport. "Mr. Miller," one of the boys whispered, "what are those things attacking us?" Tom hesitated, unsure how much to tell the frightened children. "They're called void hunters. They're not from around here." "Why are they hurting people?" another child asked. "Some beings don't know how to be kind," Mrs. Parker answered gently. "They only take what they want without asking." A sudden loud bang from above made everyone freeze. Dust rained down from the ceiling as heavy footsteps moved directly overhead. Tom motioned for absolute silence. The children huddled closer together, eyes wide with fear. The footsteps paused as if the void hunter was listening for something. Tom held his breath, acutely aware that the hatch 20 feet away could open at any moment. After what seemed like an eternity, the footsteps moved away. Tom released the breath he'd been holding and waited another minute before whispering, "We need to keep moving, quickly now." They resumed their journey through the tunnels, moving faster despite their fatigue. Tom checked each junction carefully before allowing the group to proceed, wary of patrols that might have found their way into the maintenance system. "Dad," Emma whispered as they paused at another junction. "Are we going to be okay?" Tom squeezed her shoulder gently. "We're going to get through this together. All of us." The words had barely left his mouth when a distant explosion shook the tunnel, causing loose dirt and metal fragments to rain down on them. The children whimpered in fear. "It's okay," Tom said firmly. "The tunnels are designed to withstand much worse. We're safer down here than up there." They continued on, the sounds of destruction growing louder as they approached the spaceport area. When they finally reached the access hatch that would lead them to the spaceport's maintenance bay, Tom held up his hand for everyone to stop. "Need to check if it's safe," he whispered to Mrs. Parker. "Keep everyone here until I signal." "Be careful," she replied, her face etched with worry. Tom climbed the ladder to the hatch and pressed his ear against it. Hearing nothing suspicious, he carefully pushed it open a crack and peered out. The maintenance bay was dark except for emergency lighting. He could see part of the spaceport through the large windows, smoke rising from several buildings, but the landing pads themselves seemed intact. Most importantly, he could see an evacuation shuttle still docked at the nearest pad. Hope surged through him. They might actually make it. "It looks clear," he whispered down to the group. "I'll go first, then signal when it's safe to follow." Tom pushed the hatch fully open and climbed out into the maintenance bay. He scanned the area carefully, then motioned for the others to follow. One by one, the tired and frightened group emerged, from the tunnel into the relative openness of the maintenance bay. The children looked around with wide eyes at the equipment and tools surrounding them. "The shuttle is just through those doors and across the tarmac," Tom explained, pointing. "It's about 100 meters of open ground. We'll need to move fast and stay together." He looked at each face in the group, the children trying to be brave, Mrs. Parker with her calm determination, Mr. Reed with his grim resolve, and Emma, his beautiful daughter whose birthday had turned into a nightmare. "We're almost there," Tom said. Just a little further and we'll be safe. What he didn't say was that he had no idea what awaited them beyond New Haven, or if the shuttle would even have enough fuel to reach another colony. But right now, escape was all that mattered. Tom took a deep breath. Ready? Tom pressed his back against the maintenance bay wall, peering through the small window that overlooked the landing pad. The evacuation shuttle sat just 100 meters away, its white hull reflecting the emergency lights that flashed across the tarmac. It was their only hope of escape, but reaching it would mean crossing open ground. What do you see? Mr. Reed whispered, coming to stand beside Tom. The shuttle's still there, Tom replied quietly. Looks undamaged, but I don't see any movement, no ground crew, no other evacuees. Is that good or bad? Mrs. Parker asked, holding the hand of a small boy who couldn't stop trembling. Tom's expression was grim. Could mean the crew was captured, or that they're waiting inside for more survivors. He studied the landing area carefully, his eyes narrowing as he spotted movement near one of the damaged hangars. The distinctive tall armored form of a void hunter emerged from the smoke, followed by two more. They were sweeping the area methodically, checking each building. They're here, Tom said, his voice tense. 3 of them, moving toward the western hangars. Will they see us if we run for the shuttle? Mrs. Parker asked. Tom calculated the angles, the distance, the timing. If we wait until they move behind that fuel depot, we'll have about 60 seconds before they have a clear line of sight again. He turned to face the frightened group. The children huddled together, some crying silently, others too shocked to make a sound. Emma stood among them, her small face dirty and tear-streaked, but her eyes fixed on her father with complete trust. Listen, up, Tom said, keeping his voice calm and firm. We're going to run for that shuttle. All together as fast as we can. No stopping, no looking back. If someone falls, the adults will help them up. The only thing that matters is getting on that shuttle. He knelt down to be at eye level with the children. Remember how we practiced emergency drills at school? This is just like that. Mrs. Parker at the front, Mr. Reed in the middle, me at the back. Dad, Emma said, her voice small but steady. What if the shuttle doesn't work? Tom managed to smile for his daughter. Then I'll fix it. That's what I do, remember? I fix things. He checked the landing pad again. The void hunters were moving exactly as he'd predicted, approaching the area behind the fuel depot. Get ready, Tom said. When I say go, we move. Fast and quiet. The group lined up at the door. Mrs. Parker took a deep breath, her hand on the release panel. Mr. Reed positioned himself in the middle of the line of children, ready to help anyone who might struggle. Tom took up the rear position, with Emma, directly in front of him. I love you, Space Cadet, he whispered to her. No matter what happens, remember that. Emma nodded, her small shoulders straightening with resolve. I love you too, Dad. The void hunters disappeared behind the fuel depot. Now, Tom said sharply. Mrs. Parker hit the door panel. It slid open with a soft hiss and they burst out onto the tarmac, running as fast as the smallest children could manage. The distance to the shuttle seemed enormous in the open, every step exposed. They were halfway there when a high-pitched whine filled the air. Tom looked up to see 2 small craft descending rapidly toward the landing pad. Void Hunter transport vessels, their sleek black hulls bristling with weapons. Run faster, Tom shouted, all pretense of stealth abandoned. They've seen us. The group surged forward, pure adrenaline pushing them beyond exhaustion. The shuttle was only 30 meters away now. 20, 10. Mrs. Parker reached the shuttle's entry ramp first and slammed her hand against the emergency access panel. The ramp began to lower, agonizingly slow. Come on, Tom muttered, urging the children forward as he continuously looked back to check for pursuers. The 3 void hunters emerged from behind the fuel depot, alerted by the noise. They raised their weapons. Inside now, Tom shouted as the ramp touched the ground. He pushed the last of the children toward the opening, counting heads as they scrambled aboard. 19, 20, 21, including Emma. A blue energy pulse hit the ground near Tom's feet. sending up sparks and fragments of the landing pad. The Void Hunters were firing, still too far away for accuracy but closing the distance rapidly. Tom rushed up the ramp after the last child. Inside, the shuttle's emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow. The cockpit door was open, revealing the pilot's chair. "Is anyone here a pilot?" Tom called out, already knowing the answer. "I've had basic training," Mr. Reed said. "Part of the security rotation last year." "Get up there and start the launch sequence," Tom ordered. "The controls should be automated for emergency evacuation." More energy pulses hit the shuttle's hull, making the entire vessel shudder. Through the still open ramp, Tom could see the Void Hunters running toward them while the transport vessels maneuvered to block any potential escape route. "Dad!" Emma cried, pointing at a display screen near the ramp controls. It showed the shuttle's status, and a critical warning flashed in red. "Launch inhibitor active." Tom's heart sank. The Void Hunters had deployed technology to prevent ships from leaving. The shuttle's engines wouldn't fire while the inhibitor was active. From the cockpit, Mr. Reed called back in a panic. "The startup sequence is running, but the engines won't engage." Another blast rocked the shuttle. Tom made a split-second decision. "Mrs. Parker," he said quickly, "get everyone secured in the passenger harnesses. Mr. Reed, keep working on the launch sequence. Be ready to take off the instant the engines are able to fire." "What about the inhibitor?" Mrs. Parker asked. Tom moved to the weapons locker near the ramp and entered his emergency override code. The locker opened, revealing a standard-issue mining laser, designed for cutting rock but effective enough against electronics. "I'm going to destroy it," he said, checking the laser's charge. "Dad, no!" Emma broke away from the group and ran to him, grabbing his arm. "Don't go back out there." Tom looked down at his daughter's face, memorizing every detail. Her mother's blue eyes, the small scar on her chin from falling off her first bike, the freckles across her nose. "Emma," he said gently, kneeling to her level. "Sometimes being brave means doing scary things to help others. Remember when Mom got sick and she told you to be brave for me?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I need you to be brave again. Get in your seat, strap in, and take care of the other kids who are scared. Can you do that for me?" "But you'll come back, right?" Emma's voice cracked. Tom pulled her into a tight hug. "I'll do everything I can to come back to you. But no matter what happens, I'll always be with you, right here." He touched her heart. Another blast hit even closer, and the shuttle rocked violently. "We're out of time," Tom said, standing up. "Mrs. Parker, please." The teacher nodded, understanding. She gently took Emma's hand. "Come on, Emma, your dad needs to help us fly away from here." "I love you, Space Cadet," Tom said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "To the stars and back." "To the stars and back," Emma repeated their special phrase, allowing Mrs. Parker to lead her away. Tom hit the ramp, control, stepping out as it began to close. The last thing he saw inside was Emma's face, watching him with a mixture of fear and trust that nearly broke his resolve. Outside, chaos reigned. The Void Hunters were less than 50 meters away now, their energy weapons firing continuously. The transport vessels hovered overhead, their weapon systems powering up with an ominous hum. Tom sprinted toward a maintenance shed near the edge of the landing pad. According to the shuttle's display, that was where the launch inhibitor had been placed. Every step exposed him to enemy fire, but he zigzagged unpredictably, making himself a difficult target. A blast hit the ground directly in front of him, sending him flying backward. Pain exploded across his left side as he landed hard on the tarmac. Through blurred vision, he saw that his uniform was scorched, the skin underneath burned and blistered. "Get up," he growled to himself. "Get up." Forcing himself to his feet, Tom limped the remaining distance to the maintenance shed. Inside, he found what he was looking for, a black box with glowing blue lights, emitting a steady pulse that matched the rhythm on the shuttle's warning display. The mining laser felt heavy in his injured hands as he aimed it at the inhibitor device. The beam cut through the outer casing, causing the lights to flicker. Tom adjusted the beam's intensity, focusing on the internal components. Outside, He heard the heavy footsteps of the Void Hunters approaching. They knew what he was doing. The inhibitor sparked and smoked as the laser penetrated its core systems. With a final surge, the blue lights went dark. The device was disabled. Tom activated his tablet's emergency channel. "Reed, inhibitors down. Launch now." From the landing pad, he heard the shuttle's engines roar to life. A wave of relief washed over him. They could escape now. But as he stepped out of the shed, he saw one of the Void Hunter transport vessels, repositioning, its weapons targeting the shuttle directly. If it fired, the shuttle would be destroyed before it could clear the atmosphere. There was one defense turret on this side of the landing pad, an automated system designed to protect against meteors and debris, but it could be manually controlled. It was just within reach, about 20 meters away. Tom ran for it, ignoring the searing pain in his side. The Void Hunters spotted him and redirected their fire. Energy blasts tore up the tarmac around him as he reached the turret's control panel. His hands flew over the controls, bypassing the automated systems and bringing the weapons online in manual mode. The shuttle was rising now, its engines glowing bright against the smoky sky. Tom targeted the closest transport vessel and fired. The turret's laser struck the vessel's weapons array, causing a small explosion that made it veer off course. But the second vessel was still in position, its weapons charging for a killing shot at the rising shuttle. Tom swung the turret toward it, but a blast from one of the Void Hunters hit the control panel, sending sparks flying. The targeting system was damaged, but the turret could still fire. Through the smoke and chaos, Tom saw the shuttle climbing higher, Emma and the others safely inside. The Void Hunter vessel fired a missile, its trajectory aimed perfectly to intercept the shuttle. In that moment, Tom knew what he had to do. There was only one way to save them. He positioned himself between the turret and the oncoming missile. Using his body as a shield, he reached around to the exposed wiring of the damaged control panel. With a final surge of strength, he crossed the wires that would cause the turret to overload. The resulting explosion was massive, creating a shockwave that knocked the missile off course. It detonated harmlessly in the air, well away from the escaping shuttle. As pain and darkness closed in around him, Tom looked up at the sky. The shuttle was just a small speck now, rising steadily toward the stars, toward safety, toward Emma's future. "To the stars and back, Space Cadet," he whispered as the world faded away. Tom Miller died as he had lived, protecting what mattered most. And high above, in a shuttle racing toward distant stars, a small girl pressed her hand against a viewport, watching her home disappear behind her, not yet understanding the full measure of her father's sacrifice. 3 months had passed since the attack on New Haven. On a Central Alliance world called Terra Nova, the morning sun streamed through tall windows, casting long rectangles of light across the floor of a modest apartment. Emma Miller sat at a small desk, her fingers carefully assembling a miniature circuit board. At 8 years old, she had her father's steady hands and sharp mind for engineering. "Emma, breakfast is ready," called a gentle voice from the kitchen. Linda Green, Emma's foster mother, was a kind woman in her 40s who had volunteered to take in survivors from New Haven. Her husband, Michael, worked in the Alliance Defense Department, which was how they had been among the first to hear about the disaster and offer their home. Emma placed her tools down carefully, exactly as her father had taught her. "Everything in its place, Space Cadet," he used to say. "A good engineer respects their tools." The memory brought the familiar ache to her chest, but she had learned to breathe through it. She walked to the kitchen, where Linda was placing a bowl of fruit beside a plate of toast. "Did you sleep better last night?" Linda asked, noting the dark circles under Emma's eyes that were slowly fading as the weeks passed. Emma nodded. "Only one bad dream." Linda didn't press for details. She knew about the nightmares, explosions running through dark tunnels, and worst of all, watching her father walk down that ramp for the last time. Some nights Emma would wake up screaming his name. "Miss Parker is coming to visit today," Linda said as Emma began eating. "She wants to see how you're settling in with school." Emma brightened a little at the mention of her former teacher. Mrs. Parker had been one of the 23 survivors on the shuttle, and she had held Emma during those terrible first days after they reached safety, when the full reality of what had happened began to sink in. "Can I show her my project?" Emma asked. "Of course," Linda smiled. "She'll be very impressed." After breakfast, Emma returned to her room to get ready for the day. On her bedside table sat a telescope, not the one her father had bought for her 8th birthday, but a replacement the Greens had given her when they learned about her interest in astronomy. Beside it was a framed photo of Tom Miller, his arm around a younger Emma, both smiling in front of New Haven's community garden. Emma touched the photo gently before turning to her closet to get dressed. As she pulled on her blue shirt, her father's favorite color, she heard the doorbell ring. In the living room, Mrs. Parker was greeting Linda with a hug. When Emma appeared, Mrs. Parker knelt down to embrace her too. "Look at you," Mrs. Parker said warmly, "growing taller every time I see you." "I grew 1 whole centimeter since last month," Emma reported seriously. "Mr. Green marked it on the wall." Mrs. Parker smiled, but Emma noticed her eyes looked tired. All the adults had tired eyes these days. "Emma, why don't you show Mrs. Parker your project while I make some tea?" Linda suggested. Emma led her former teacher to her room where the half-assembled circuit board sat on her desk. "What are you building?" Mrs. Parker asked, examining the intricate pattern of connections. "It's a better emergency beacon," Emma explained. "The ones on New Haven weren't strong enough to get through the Void Hunter's jamming signals. This one uses multiple frequencies and a special coding system." Mrs. Parker's expression softened with a mixture of pride and sadness. "You're so much like your father. He would be very proud of you." Emma nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I know. He taught me lots of things about engineering. I remember them all." They talked for a while about Emma's new school and her classmates. Unlike many of the New Haven survivors who had been relocated across different Alliance worlds, Emma had adjusted relatively well to her new surroundings. The Greens had made sure she received counseling, and her natural resilience, inherited from both her parents, had helped her cope with the trauma. Later, when Emma was helping Linda prepare lunch, Mrs. Parker and Mr. Green spoke quietly in the living room. "How is she really doing?" Mrs. Parker asked. Michael Green ran a hand through his graying hair. "Better than most. The nightmares are becoming less frequent. The therapist says her focus on engineering projects is a healthy way of processing her grief. It keeps her connected to her father." "And the others from our group?" "All settled with families across 3 different worlds. The Alliance is keeping close tabs on everyone, making sure they have the support they need." Michael's voice dropped lower. "But that's not the only reason I wanted to talk to you today. There's been a development." Mrs. Parker leaned forward. "About New Haven?" Michael nodded. "About Tom Miller specifically." In the small dining room, the adults gathered around the table with Emma. Linda had made a special lunch with all of Emma's favorite foods. There was an air of anticipation that Emma didn't quite understand, but she could sense that something important was happening. After they had eaten, Michael cleared his throat. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you about your father." Emma looked up, suddenly alert. Any mention of her father immediately captured her full attention. "You know that your dad saved everyone on that shuttle." Michael began carefully. "But what you don't know is that he did something else. Something just as important." He pulled out his tablet and placed it on the table. "During the attack, your father managed to activate his engineer's data recorder. It captured everything: the Void Hunters' weapons, their tactics, even some of their communication frequencies." Emma's eyes widened. Her father had always carried that recorder. "Dad said a good engineer always keeps records," she said softly. Michael nodded. He was right. And those records made it onto the shuttle with you. When Alliance forces finally reached the system, they found his data. It's the most complete information we've ever had on the Void Hunters. "Is that good?" Emma asked hesitantly. "It's very good," Michael said. "The Alliance has been studying it for months. They've developed new defenses specifically designed to counter Void Hunter technology. 3 days ago, those defenses were used to successfully repel an attack on another mining colony. Mrs. Parker reached across the table to take Emma's hand. Your father saved more than just the people on that shuttle, Emma. He saved countless, others who would have been attacked next. Emma sat very still, processing this information. Her father had always been a hero to her, but now he was a hero to others too. It made her feel both proud and sad at the same time. There's more, Michael continued. The Alliance Defense Council has created a new protocol for all frontier colonies. It's a special defensive system that automatically transmits sensor data and activates emergency beacons that can't be jammed. They're calling it Miller's Shield. Emma's eyes filled with tears. They named it after Dad? Linda put her arm around Emma's shoulders. Yes, sweetheart. Your father's name will help protect people for years to come. Later that afternoon, after Mrs. Parker had left, Emma sat at her window with her telescope. It wasn't dark enough to see stars yet, but she liked the feel of it in her hands, the solid weight, the smooth metal that reminded her of the tools her father used to let her hold in his workshop. Michael knocked gently on her open door. May I come in? Emma nodded, still looking through the telescope at the distant mountains. I have something else to show you, Michael said, sitting on the edge of her bed. He held out a small chip. This contains all your father's engineering notes and designs from New Haven. The Alliance preserved them from the colony's backup systems. I thought you might want to have them. Emma took the chip carefully, as if it were made of glass. All of Dad's work? Everything, Michael confirmed, including his design for an improved air filtration system that he was working on before the attack. Emma clutched the chip tightly. It was like having a piece of her father back. His thoughts, his ideas, his legacy. There's one more thing, Michael said. The Defense Academy has a special program for young engineers. When you're older, if you want, you could apply. With your father's talent in you, I have no doubt you'd be accepted. For the first time in months, Emma felt a spark of real excitement. I could build things to protect people like Dad did? Michael nodded. Exactly like that. That night, Emma lay in bed, the chip containing her father's work safe in a small box beside her. Outside her window, the stars had appeared, bright points of light against the darkness. She remembered how her father used to lift her onto his shoulders so she could see better through his old telescope on New Haven. Every star could have planets around it, he had told her, and someday humans might live on many of them. That's why we build things, Space Cadet, to help people live better, safer lives wherever they are. Emma touched the telescope beside her bed. 3 months ago, her world had ended in fire and fear. Her father had given his life so that she and others could escape, but he had also left behind something else, a purpose. In his final acts, Tom Miller had not only saved lives but had created a shield that would continue to protect others long after he was gone. To the stars and back, Dad, Emma whispered, their special phrase floating up toward the ceiling and beyond, into the infinite night sky. As she drifted toward sleep, Emma's mind filled with designs and improvements for her emergency beacon project. Tomorrow she would continue building one circuit at a time. It was what her father would have wanted. It was his legacy, living on through her. And somewhere far away, on colonies protected by Miller's shield, people would look up at the stars without fear, never knowing that their safety had been purchased by one man's sacrifice, a human who died protecting not just his child, but a future worth living in.